I'm Alan in this video. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to more Geometry Dash. Today, we are going to be talking about Geometry Dash 2.2. About a month in. It's been almost a month since the update came out now, and we have started seeing small bug fixes and patch note updates for the game, and it's been absolutely incredible. I did not want to make a video talking about the update and just actually speak on the update as a whole until we started getting a few updates here and there. And now I feel like it's the perfect time because we've gotten enough time to play around with it, and we've had enough time just in general. I'm going to be talking on pretty much everything, and I'm going to be talking about it through the lens of I'm not going to be holding anything back. If there's something I don't like, I will talk about that. If there's something I like, I'll talk about that, you know? That kind of stuff. So, to begin with, we're just going to start out simple, right? We're just going to start out simple. We're going to start out with Dash. We're going to be talking a little bit about Dash. Just as a level, I will say, I think Dash is actually really good. You might say it probably recency bias, but I think Dash is a very good introduction to the 2.2 features, with the exception of that one spider that Colin has complained about for like 5 years now. And to be fair, that it is very bad. That spider, really bad. Not gonna hide it. But I think as a whole, this level is really good. And I think it introduces so many cool mechanics and shows creators, hey, these are things that you can do now. And I think it's one of the better introductory levels to everything, really, which I think is a good thing. I will never complain about a good main level. I'm a huge fan of Rob Top stuff, and I think this level just does it well. You have the free fly, you have the screen rotations, you have the screen effects, you have rotating gameplay, you have stuff like this where it's kind of like an auto scroller but not really an auto scroller. I don't know, I think it's a good level. Dash is all I'm gonna say. I think Dash is good, except for the third coin. I forgot to say that the third coin kind of sucks. The third gun I would definitely change, but that's the point. As for the tower, I think the tower is good. I think it does its job very well. I do enjoy it. I think the tower introduces a lot of cool mechanics and a lot of cool stuff, and I really enjoy it. So how about platformers? What do I think about platformer mode in general? I am a platformer enjoyer. I think platformer is very different from regular GD in the sense that, to me at least, platformers is one of those game modes that, to me, doesn't make sense to play hard stuff. Platformers seems more like a chill experience to me. Platformer levels, to me, are like, I want to just sit down, relax, have a good time, just play something easy. After the patch notes and Rob Top making it less slippery, I think platformer has been, generally speaking, way more enjoyable. I think platformer has been at the mercy of very bad difficulty ranges so far. Platformer has kind of been plagued by the fact that no one really knows how hard things are, and platformer difficulties are very hard to gauge, I found. I feel like platformer levels are in a very weird spot where this 8-star could very well be super difficult, and stuff like this 5-star could also be difficult, or this 8-star could be really easy. And I feel like we're just kind of struggling currently with figuring out a good difficulty range and scale for the platformer levels. Part of me kind of wishes that Rob would entirely revamp the difficulty system for platformers in general, because a medium demon in platformer terms doesn't necessarily mean a medium demon, right? And an extreme demon or a hard demon doesn't really mean that it is that hard in platformer terms. Same with a 6 moon, a harder level. It's so hard to scale it, and I think my main issue with it is the fact that everyone tries to scale it to classic GD levels and compare it to classic GD levels, other than the fact that people just don't like slopes in platformer mode, which is completely fair. I think that is a completely valid criticism to give. I see a lot of people who play Coaster Mountain by Sir Punch and say that this level took me so long, I hate it, how is his medium demon, it should be way harder. But then you have people who have never played Geometry Dash before and don't have any experience with Geometry Dash who can beat Coaster Mountain in 30 minutes because they just play a lot of platformers, right? And I think that is a very massive thing that, to me at least, indicates that going by the old classic scale of difficulty is not a good thing, and I think Rob should kind of revamp it where a hard isn't called a hard anymore and just rename the scale so that they aren't comparable. I think the problem, or the issue with it, is that people kind of try and implement the difficulty scale from classic GD onto platformer now because of the fact that they are named the same. A 5 moon hard level and a 5-star classic level, they aren't comparable. They give the same value, they have the same value, they are a hard level, they give the same amount of stats, so they aren't technically the same, and it also implies that it wants to compare them, and I don't agree with this. For instance, a demon, it shouldn't be a demon. You don't even have to be creative. Just call it a 10-star angel. It is its own difficulty scale, completely irrelevant to regular standard GD, and it will immediately just show, hey, you should not be comparing classic and platformer levels. They aren't comparable. The difficulty of them is entirely dependent on other factors. I'm a very good classic GD player. I will go on a limb here and I'll go on the record to say I'm really good at classic GD. I have beaten 209 extreme demons. I have 3,019 demons. I take time beating a 7 moon level. If I were to sit down and play Hexheart by Cassie, I would take a long time. A 7-star should never take me more than 1 attempt. That is a minute and 30 seconds on like average. This 7-star, this 7 moon harder level is going to take me like 15 minutes. Maybe not 15, but not very far away from it, right? In my classic GD pilled brain, if I didn't think for 2 seconds, that would equal to me a medium demon. This is not a medium demon, right? It's so dependent on your skill from classic GD where you would place stuff in terms of platformer difficulty, and I think it's a bad thing. As much as I love platformer, I think it's really enjoyable. I think having it on the same scale as classic GD levels to compare difficulty, not a very good thing. Speaking of difficulties, one of the patch notes added one of my favorite features of all time. Right here, click on the demon thing. You can see here. Insane, incredible. I absolutely love it. I adore it even. It is so awesome. And then you have the stats stuff here. And I think it's just great. If we go into options, we can go into options. Things that have been enabled that were previously Mega Hack exclusive stuff is like faster reset time. You can make it half a second instead of a second upon death, which is very, very fast, very quick. I don't think this was added in here, I don't remember, but lock cursor in game, fantastic. A lot of people have 2 monitors. I have 3, for instance. So if I were still using mouse, having lock cursor in game, absolutely genius because I don't accidentally click off my game. Awesome. Orb guide, which is just the indicators and stuff. There's just a lot of really good quality of life stuff that has been added throughout everything. Enable quick keys right here. There's a restart key. It's insane. And toggle hitboxes in practice mode. Oh my god, that is absolutely genius. If I'm playing practice mode, I need to check something. I could just click P. If you go here, for instance, and I go into practice mode, I can just do this. And I have hitboxes, and I can toggle them off. It is insane. Having that in regular Geometry Dash is so unbelievably cool. The fact that we've gotten this kind of stuff is insane. We also have borderless full screen now, which is wow. Borderless full screen, the most insane thing of all time. Unlock FPS, show FPS. We got so many awesome features that I'm so happy that we can have now. It's so awesome. I should probably do that because I don't have the other thing anymore. Anyway, that's beside the point. I digress. I think the show hitboxes one is kind of irrelevant now though because of the fact that we have quick keys, but that's beside the point. You just have so many awesome things. Confirm exit as well. Awesome. Fast menu. I don't know if you guys have seen this one, but it's like there's no transition between anything. Go back and I do here. You can see the transition time. It's basically completely gone. It's just so insanely convenient. And part of me cannot really believe that Rob has added all these things because I feel like never would have thought that he would, right? Like you never would have thought that he would add these kind of things because they just wouldn't make sense to add into regular GD. As for stuff like the paths having become cheaper now, I also think that is super awesome. We have cheaper stuff to get, which is really cool. I've been very slow with stuff because I don't unlock anything, right? I never unlock anything because I just play hard levels. But anyway, we've gotten so many things to do daily, basically. Like, I think the paths, kind of like as a battle pass, are so cool. This is 10,000 stars worth of unlocks. And you have lists. We love lists. Do I even have any lists that I've beaten that I can do? Me at the zoo. Oh. Bear, wolf, rhino, horse, rattlesnake, bird, lion, bee, tiger, gerbil, kitty, fish. That's awesome. We love it. And I don't know. I personally just think that these things are really awesome. Oh. Hey, look at that. I got a list achievement. Isn't that cool? I think that's pretty cool. And there are just so many cool things like this. And it's so awesome. It's so cool. It's so cool. It's so great. I've just been giddy about it, right? Like, I've just been constantly very giddy about all of these things that have been added. And then we have the gauntlets, which were very fun. There were 5 new gauntlets that were added, and we're going to be getting more of them as time passes. And it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. Where the low detail button used to be, there's a cogwheel now where you can click on it and you can enable low detail or you can disable shake, which I think is really cool. I like personally the fact that disable shake is a level-to-level basis kind of thing because I'm personally under the impression that disable shake is only necessary for certain levels, kind of like Pabric. I thought Pabric was an awful use of shake. So being able to disable it for specific levels I think is a good thing because shake doesn't really add much. It adds to the experience of a lot of levels, and there are very few levels where shake is like genuinely a detriment to the overall playing experience. So I think having it like this and not having it a permanent option is a very good thing. I think this is the best possible way to do it. I do hope we get more options here because, well, first and foremost, it looks really stupid that there's 2 things that you can enable/disable and there's a whole ass block for it, but that's beside the point. But I think it's a very good compromise. I understand why. Similar to the purchasing practice music sync where you can have the practice song in normal mode. I think it makes sense because it's part of the experience, but you don't want it to be something that you just enable and then move on with your life. Similar to how the practice music sync thing is something that you want people to have the option to use because you know how many people want it. You also do not want to remove part of the original GD experience with having practice music there. So you have to like kind of play the game a little bit to earn it before you get to move on to where you can play at a more serious level. Not that you need a practice music sync to play at a serious level, but I understand it. I fully get it. Now, if we go over to shaders and stuff, I think for me as a person who never really minded mirror portals, I'm finding it much easier to like sight read the moving screens and stuff, but it is still something that you are gonna have to get used to, and it has been a little bit difficult, but not to the point where it's like an actual diminishing, you don't have any like diminishing returns, right? And I think it's been very, very good so far, and I haven't really seen anyone make anything like abhorrent except for like a few tiny instances. Logotomy is one because the camera just follows the boss instead of following you, which I just do not understand. That's besides the point. But for the most part, camera controls that have been used and shaders that have been used in a very nice way. They've been used to enhance the level instead of making it more confusing. We are definitely going to start seeing some levels where with bad usage for sure, but I think I'm want to say that I'm pleasantly surprised with how little bad levels we've actually seen, which I think is a very good thing. It is time to cover the final thing that I can at least think of. Maybe I forgot to cover something, but the elephant in the room, physics changes. Now, I've been asked about the physics changes a ton. I've been getting so many questions about, Aeon, what do you think about the physics changes? Are you a fan? Do you like them? Do you dislike them? What are your general thoughts on the physics changes? And I am going to give my full unfiltered opinion on what I think about the physics changes. This might take up like 10 minutes of the video. I'm not gonna lie, I could have made an entire video on its own for this. However, I didn't want to because I didn't want to fuel the fire, but I'm fueling the fire anyway. So let's start out with the worst part of it that I think is going to be very good in a while, but that because we haven't seen Viper and Gang fix levels yet is the main issue so far. Slopes. Now, I will state at first to say that I think the slope change is good. Very good, actually. I think it's fantastic. The problem with the physics or the slopes changes currently is the fact that every level, or like 99% of levels that are currently rated, were made with the old slope quirks in mind, which is not necessarily a good thing because of the fact that they were changed, or now they are changed and they were changed before, so now it's much more difficult to do a lot of levels because they were made with the old slope quirks in mind. However, in my opinion about slopes, is that once levels get fixed, which I'm assuming is going to happen soon, I'm guessing that they've just gone through every single level, they've been making stuff about it, and they're just like hard sending out all of them at once. So like everything gets fixed in like one snap instead of like incrementally doing one at a time. Once all of them are fixed and every single level plays more or less similarly to how it used to, I think the slopes change is probably the best change that could have ever happened in this game. And hear me out. Now, regardless of what device you play on, what frame rate you play on, what hurts your monitor or device is, slopes will always work 100% consistently the exact same way, and there are no bugs relating to it that existed in before. A lot of the quirks people want to see still, like the massive mega jump if you jump from the corner of it, or if you hold a robot from the very bottom, you just kind of like whoop, and then you just flatline. Stuff like that people want to still see, and I kind of agree with it to an extent, but I think that having slopes work 100% consistently at all times, regardless of what you play on, how you play it, and everything, is such a good thing. Because number one reason for bugs in GD ever has been slopes just being a bitch across different frame rates, across everything. Slopes have been so difficult for the entirety of the game that you had to have 10 different playtesters for different refresh rates just to like make sure the slopes did not mess up. Now that's not going to be a thing anymore. Now slopes are just gonna be consistent. I think it's great. It is a massive inconvenience for the first month, 2 months of the game, but once levels are fixed, I think it's gonna be great. I think people are gonna be so happy about it. They are a little bit wonky in platformer, but I think that's just the inherent issue of having free play platformers with slopes. Reminder, Mario Maker 1 did not have slopes because Nintendo was not able to implement them in a good way to where they felt consistent and worked properly. They have them in Mario Maker 2, but they needed a whole ass game without slopes because they just could not make it work. The fact that RobTop has made them work as consistent as they have is really impressive if you think about it. As for ship physics, especially, I think they play way better. I think they play much better. I noticed it immediately as I started playing on 2.2 that whenever I tried to strafe fly, I would keep going up a little bit because I kept holding for too long. So my press was way more sensitive. That is a very good thing because that means more easily performed inputs And I think that ship is just much easier to control now and way more consistent to control. I feel like one thing that I've noticed with 2.2 is that as a whole, my inputs feel way more consistent. I feel way more consistent at the game as a whole now because it feels like all of my clicks always respond at the exact same time instead of having like a window of when it might work, which is a fantastic thing. Same goes for Wave. I feel like Wave is just more consistent as a whole. It feels like it is a very consistent latency to it, which is really nice. One of my biggest issues, however, is the change to jumping with the cube. And this is purely out of frustration that the level that I'm currently trying to beat as a hardest is absolutely butchered by 2 jumps now because of the fact that you don't jump as far. And not jumping as far is a really bad thing when you have to clear distance, right? And it does make some timings harder. Some timings are definitely harder. Timings as a whole are easier. However, certain things are harder. And that's just something that we have to accommodate for and get used to. I've seen a lot of people complain about levels being worse on 2.2 because, oh, they feel harder. But in reality, it's just certain things becoming harder while other things becoming easier. But the thing that got easier, you were already really good at because it was Ship and Wave, which are already very skill-based game modes. So most top players are already incredibly good at them. But timings got harder, and timings is what generally people are worse at, and therefore levels feel much harder, even though I think evenly spread out, the levels they are more or less the same difficulty in most cases. Obviously, there are certain cases where that's just not the case. Hard Machine, for instance, my current hardest, which is not my hardest, got absolutely butchered by it because stuff like 7, 8, and 80%, which were notoriously really difficult because you kept jumping too far, is just much easier now because, well, you don't jump as far. It's much easier to get the result that you want. So the level itself is just easier, and some of the hard parts that were ball and ship control and stuff like that are also easier now. Which, yeah, to be fair, I understand it, but, you know. I think it's overall a good thing. I'm very much a fan of the new physics. I really like them, and I've been having a ton of fun playing levels on the new physics. But anyway, I think the 2.2 physics are absolutely fantastic. I'm really much a fan of them. I've been having a ton of fun playing around with them and playing levels, and I think it's been a good thing. I think it's been a very, very good and enjoyable scenario. He also did add back the coyote timing, which a lot of people complain about, where on the very last possible frame that you could click an orb, you just couldn't in 2.2. That was added back. And I think, personally, okay, listen, when it comes to Rob having these quick fixes, 2.201, 2.202, 203, 204, I think this entirely destroys the argument that Rob is a bad and lazy developer. He was just way too hard focused on 2.2. Now that he's just adding quick fixes that people are requesting and pushing them out within a couple of days, incredible. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a problem for the mobile community because the mobile community has not yet received these updates. My assumption is that Rob has not yet submitted it and is waiting for the final quick fix to be done for Steam, have people play it, people are satisfied, and then push it out to mobile, because pushing out one update at a time for mobile when it takes like 4 days for the update to be accepted is kind of silly, but that's besides the point. And I think it's really cool to see. I really hope Rob continues doing this, whereas like things that can be easily implemented in small quick fixes just get implemented between updates and aren't waiting for big updates. Like, if all of these, like, small patch notes fixes were added to 2.21, I don't think anyone would be disappointed, but I think that most people are very appreciative of us getting them in, like, small patch notes. I think that's fantastic. 2.2 so far has been absolutely phenomenal. I've been really, really enjoying it. I've had a ton of fun playing 2.2, and while there are a couple small things that I'm not the biggest fan of, overall, 2.2 has been insanely fun. It has really reignited a passion and love that I've always had for GD, but that is just even greater now. And I'm so much more inclined to just keep on grinding, keep on having a fun time, keep on making content. And I'll see you guys around. Eat your green stuff, stay hydrated. Think we're making my head better. Hope it was a little bit better too. Tell me what you guys think. I would really like to hear it. And I'll see you guys later. Peace out, everyone.